Act on Indo-US relations. So let me invite him first, and then, sir, we'll come to you with public health.
You know, thank you, Professor Arvind Kumar and Manipal University for inviting me. Like your Arvind sir and Monish sir, I was also a student in the Center for American Studies. But my situation is more delicate in the sense that I work with my teachers now. So every time I address, it's like appearing in an exam again and again in front of your teachers. That is something that they don't have to face, but I do. Anyway, so let's begin with let me see whether how much you know about the United States. We have a presidential visit coming up. And which government agency, which agency of the US administration finalizes a presidential visit? You have any idea? The Department of State, the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, the CIA? Which agency finalizes a presidential visit? It is the United States Secret Service. The Secret Service which provides security to the President of the United States. It comes around 1 month to 6 weeks earlier to a country where the President is going to visit. And that is known as advancing a presidential visit. And if the Secret Service says no, the President is not going to visit. So, morning I heard, my sirs saying that they were being asked, Obama kyun aa raha hai? Why is Obama coming? So you have a ready answer, because the Secret Service allowed him to. That is the best answer you can give. I heard from, you also heard, not only me, Ambassador Lalit Man Singh talking about Pandit Nehru. That was a prime ministerial visit to America. He was not very forthcoming. He was cold towards President Kennedy. But then he was not cold towards Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy when she visited India. Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy had Hollywood good looks. She was hot. So naturally, Pandit Nehru had to be warm towards her. And she came at a time when it was Holi. And he showed how to apply colors. He took color and applied on her cheeks. I never applied color on my wife's cheeks. He was applying color on someone else's wife's cheeks. And that to the wife of the President of the United States. Fine. Anyway. So any talk of Jacqueline Kennedy, well, of course, we will talk about President Kennedy, the 35th President of the United States, one of my favorite leaders, who had, in an address less than 6 months before his unfortunate assassination in November 1963 at the American University, had said that he does not want a Pax Americana. I think you've heard of this term, Pax Americana, means shaping the world in the image of America. He said he does not want a Pax Americana, and a Pax Americana by the use of weapons of war. What will happen if Pax Americana is sought to be enforced through the use of weapons of war? We have seen that. We have seen George W. Bush doing that. He did something known as regime change. He said there must be a democracy instead of a dictatorship. And if there is a democracy in a problematic country, then that democracy will not have a relation of conflict with the United States. So Pax Americana by the use of weapons of war, would lead to regime change. Just George W. Bush did. But President Kennedy never said Pax Americana through other means. He never said that you cannot have a Pax Americana through other means. Pax Americana can be through other means. But why do we talk about this? I'd like to use another sociological term here, known as ethnocentrism. Are you aware of this term, ethnocentrism? Judging other cultures on the standards of your own culture. So Pax Americana is just ethnocentrism beyond borders, beyond your own borders. It is what I call diplomatic ideocentrism. Your ideology is supreme. If anyone else does not have that ideology, make him belong to that ideology, either by force or by something else. And diplomacy, of course, means not the use of force. Diplomatic ideocentrism is something that the United States believes in. And Indians, when Barack Obama, Senator Obama became president, Indians became very happy. I don't know why they were happy. Indian Americans are beaten black and blue in America by blacks, by African Americans. Despite that, Indians were very happy. So you must understand that there is no reason to identify with a particular group in the United States if that group is not sympathetic towards Indians. So there was no reason for being happy. But then, why are we talking about Indian Americans? Never say American Indians. American Indians are the red Indians. Indian Americans are the Asian Indians. So Indian Americans, are they a monolithic group? No. In America, we talk of Bengali Americans. And Bangladeshis say we are Bangladeshi Americans, not Bengali Americans. Bengali Americans are from India. We have Telugu Americans, Tamil Americans. We have Bihari Americans. And they have of late celebrated Chhath on the banks of the Potomac. The rise of Magad is complete. Fine, the Magadhan Empire has reached there. But then, such celebrations may not be taken kindly by the United States, by Americans, by mainstream Americans. If Indians don't assimilate and celebrating Chhath, we may like it, but Americans may not appreciate it, let alone like it. Because any connection with the old country is regarded as an obstacle towards assimilation. Indians are expected to assimilate. Navin Jindal is right in saying that my parents came here to become Americans, not Indian Americans. And again, going back to JFK in 1960, people called him the Catholic candidate for president. JFK said, I am the Democratic Party's candidate for president who happens to be a Catholic. Fine, so there are unassimilated sections of American society, and Indian Americans are one of those sections. They celebrate the Indian Independence Day there as well. Mainstream America may not appreciate this kind of thing. What kind of opinion does Americans have about India? It's a modernizing society with a feudal past, in which people of power, wealth, and influence, they are at the top of the social hierarchy. When the Devjani Khobragade issue happened, American newspapers wrote that Indians are in the habit of misbehaving with maidservants, domestic helps, as they say. Indians are in the habit of doing that, and this is why it happened. The Boston Globe was a conservative paper, and now it is a liberal paper now. Even then, the Boston Globe was writing that. So Americans believe that India is an unequal society. How do Indians look at America? Military power, prosperity, money, third, sex. Dangerous combination. military power, money, sex. Hillary Clinton came and said, if you watch our movies and our serials, you will find all our girls are like that. It's not that. But Indians think that. Now the internet. So Indians sitting in India are trying to shape themselves in the image of what they think is America. But Indians must never forget that American society, there are certain values, American values. What are American values? You do not become what Americans call themselves the greatest nation in human history. You do not become that by selling porn. So Indians must realize that there are certain American values that made America. Individual liberty, free enterprise, strong national defense, and freedom of worship. Or of course, not to worship. Indians must understand the political structure of America. Indians must know that the Republican Party has a huge backing of the churches. When Americans use the term Hindu nationalist BJP, Indians are quiet. They don't know. The Republican Party is also backed by the churches, the Christian right, as they say. The Democratic Party is backed by the labor unions. That is why during the 2008 campaign, Obama said that I will end tax breaks to those companies who take away jobs to India. Who forced him to say that? The labor unions. And who controls the labor unions in America? In India, you have the political parties controlling labor unions. The biggest labor union is the BMS, the RSS labor union. एक तो labor union, ऊपर से RSS. Who controls the labor unions in America? The Gundas, the underworld. Watch a movie known as Hoffa. There was a labor leader known as Jimmy Hoffa. He was controlling the labor unions, the Teamsters unions, investigated by Attorney General Bobby Kennedy. Fine? So you must understand that whatever John F. Kerry says, he's the other JFK, a lesser JFK. Also from Massachusetts, also a Catholic. It doesn't really matter. A Secretary of State cannot have a foreign policy vision, and whatever foreign policy vision he had, that vision was thrown out of the window during the 2004 elections. He was the one George W. Bush defeated. Of course, a vision. There is lack of vision. He is supposed to implement whatever Obama says. Now, both India and America are pluricultural societies, not multicultural, pluricultural societies. India is a civilizational pluricultural society. America is a political pluricultural society. Class to hai nahi, I will not elaborate. Fine? But then, presence of multiple cultures. India throughout history, America, of course, e pluribus unum, among many we are one. And this is a similarity that I was saying between India and America. And both India and America believe in the use of state power for the elimination of social imbalances. So welfare state is an irreversible reality for both of them. So before India and the United States does anything, they must focus on these similarities and realities, not on the differences. And going back to JFK, he said in his inaugural address that let us not negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Thank you very much, and may God bless the United States and India.
Thank you, Saumyait, and I have to compliment